on my phone as well. So I'm just going to do a little welcome and maybe come back to the screen at the end just to speak to you about some of the things we've been working with the students to try and support them in their journey this year. Mrs. Crandon, Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Davis really felt it was very important to put something together around this time of year in light of, announcements from the government, and also, to be honest, the fact that COVID seems to be stabilising and nicely, which hopefully means we'll have no more disruptions over the course of the year. And plans we've got, in case of what could happen over the course of the year. So Mrs. Crandon is gonna come on in a second. I'm going to share the screen. She's going to go through some detailed information about what support the children have been given already, what our expectations are from ourselves, from them, and for you over the course of the year. But I just thought it's important to remind you that, we've written to you a couple of times now and just give you an update on where things stand with the potential scenarios that can happen for the children in this cohort over the course of this year. So on the latest update that's come from the government, so it's both from WJC and from the regulatory body QIW, this kind of we were able to second guess successfully what we thought they would do to an extent, but there is more detail coming out to us now. But the plan is that the first scenario is that exams will go ahead in a full format for the children this year. Now, there are reduced specifications. There has been content removed from the courses, topics removed from maths, some examples, oracy things removed from languages, subjects, that kind of thing. And the staff will be making the students aware of that with regards revision strategies and revision checklists and so on. But the plan A in terms of the government is definitely the children will sit their examinations this year, okay? But they've also sent us out some quite detailed contingencies as if the situation were to deteriorate and the exams were to cancel, what would happen? Now, what would happen would be basically very, very similar to what's happened last year in particular, and to an extent somewhat the year before as well, in that the school will be able to carry out some standardised assessments, so with materials that were provided by the board, which we could adapt and change depending on what kind of content our children have been taught, depending on how much school they've missed and so on as a cohort. And then we would gather information from those assessments. That would all have to be stored carefully in school for a period of time. And then we would use that then to make informed judgments about what grades that we thought the children would have got based on those assessments, okay? But at the moment, that is a contingency. There isn't a plan for the exam boards to use that alongside examinations at all. So the plan is very much that they go ahead and that the children will carry out examinations. So a lot of what Mrs. Crandon is going to talk to you about is the assessment week we got coming up in a couple of weeks' time. So it's not a mock week. We're not carrying out mock exams here. We are carrying out preparation for the summer examinations in April. So it serves two purposes, as we said to you in our letter before. The first purpose is to give these learners a real life examination experience, because they haven't had one, okay? Normally, you with children at this age would have had practice examinations in the hall under exam conditions in year 9. They would have done the same in year 10, plus they would have done literature exams, full GCSE literature exams in year 10. And they would have come up to this mock period well practiced in what it feels like to be in that room under strict conditions and so on. That's the first purpose, is to give them that practice, and we're going to run that program right across the school from year 9 right up to year 13 because they're in the same boat as well. And obviously the second purpose would be that this would be evidence that we would use in the event that the contingency came into play and the teachers had to produce these centre determined grades or grades that we would give the children, okay? Now, if that came into play, it wouldn't be the only piece of evidence we used. So if the children weren't to perform at their best in this first set of examinations now, our intention is to look at how things go in December, and we're going to carry out at least another full assessment week like this in March. But also there'll be lots of continuous assessments going on in classes. There's maths mocks that the children have already sat under exam conditions in slightly different scenario to what is it in the summer. But access arrangements be in place, all those kind of support mechanisms. But where there is an assessment taking place that would contribute towards teachers deciding on a CDG, a centre determined grade, then the children are informed, okay, so they know what's upcoming and they're given support in order to be able to prepare for those assessments. So that's the kind of setup on what the year looks like, and that's why we're having this evening, and why we're carrying out that assessment week in December, and why we'll most likely do a big kind of assessment week with lots of assessment gathering evidence and exam practice again for the students later in the year, probably around March time before Easter. So without further ado, Miss, are you ready for me to share the screen?
Yeah, thanks, sir. Could you please put it on slide 3 for me, please?
Okay. So you can see that now, Miss, yeah?
Yeah, we can see it, yeah.
Okay, just give me a second. Started at the end for some reason, Miss. I'm going to go right back to the start. Okay, so we want slide 3, yeah?
Yes, please. So I just wanted to say to you all, thank you for joining me today. I wanted to have a chance to catch up with you all. Obviously, I'd love to do it in person, but this is the only way we can do it at the moment. Before Parents' Evening, which is in February, so I just wanted to provide you with lots of information, really. As much information as I possibly can, what we are doing, what you can do at home to support your child. So I wanted to give you and introduce you, if you don't already know, to the Team Year 11. So as you can see on the screen now, here, alongside the teaching staff, we have the Team Year 11, so the form tutors. Obviously, you've got myself, then Mrs. Wilkinson, Miss Jones, Miss Price, Miss Kitchener, and Miss Dacey is also doing quite a lot with Year 11 students at the moment. So even though the teachers are there on hand, and you can contact the teachers at any point, you know that you can contact myself. These other members of staff within the Year 11 team are also there to answer any questions that you may have, because they do spend quite a lot of time with your children in the mornings. So please feel free, if you ever need to, here are the ones that you can contact. So if we go on to the next slide, certainly, please. So the agenda for this evening, and this is the things I'm going to talk about, is support, what support's been put in place, the mock examination week, as Sir's mentioned, revision. I'm then going to go over key dates. Sorry, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. It's fine.
Right, okay. So key dates, department information, and then I'm going to talk about summer term examinations as well. Next slide for me, please, sir. So how can you support your child with their qualifications? And in lots of different ways, really. I have to reiterate that at the moment, attendance is absolutely crucial. In the current pandemic that we're experiencing right now, I know that there have been several students that have been off, which is obviously out of their hands. But there are students who are having sporadic days off for no reason whatsoever. So it is important that your son or daughter does attend school to the best of their ability, because the more that they are missing, the more that then is going to have a knock-on effect, because they're actually missing the teaching and the diet of the teaching from the members of the staff. Encourage them to attend revision. That's absolutely crucial. I do have a slide coming up with the days of revision and what subjects are going on in revision. A revision is not, we can't make them attend, but I certainly would encourage your son or daughter, in particular maths on a Wednesday. If they need that extra bit of support, then attendance at maths revision is crucial. Checking the Google Classroom regularly and class charts is another thing. You can, keep track of their positive behaviour, areas of concern. If a teacher's made an announcement in the Google Classroom for homework or controlled tasks and things that they need to catch up on, especially if they're off. If they're poorly, then that's another good way of supporting your child at home. And supporting with their revision as well. Check in with them, ask them what homework they have, ask them what things they need to be doing. Is there anything that you can do to help them? Can you just sit down and read over something with them? And then speak to us, really. That's what we're here for. So please don't hesitate to contact the teachers. Obviously, you can contact myself as well, and I can direct you in the right way who to speak to. But please don't be afraid to, if you need to speak to any of the subject teachers, ask just generally how your son or daughter is doing, if they're behind on anything. And And I need to just really reiterate, really, as you can see on the left-hand side, in nearly all subjects, they have centre assessment tasks, controlled assessment tasks, sorry. That is done in class with our member of staff and is done in a controlled environment. Now, lots of subjects that your son or daughter is taking do have controlled assessment tasks. So it's crucial that they're in, it's crucial that they're keeping up to date, because something like that cannot be done at home. And as Mr. Davis mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, these centre control tasks will be used then to formulate their overall qualification. So they may have a heavier weighting. For example, ICT and business studies is a very heavily weighted controlled assessment task subjects. Health and social is another one. So again, just going back to my original point, really, they need to be in. Unless there is a genuine reason, every day really does count. But please, don't hesitate to contact me if you need to on that one. Thanks, sir. So how are we supporting your child? We're doing so many things in school. Teachers, heads of year, obviously myself, form tutors, senior management. We're putting in revision sessions every week, so there's lots of different subjects on every single night, doing different kinds of revision, past papers. I know in English, for example, and in math, they're having past papers regularly, and I know that they are having past papers across the subjects as well. We have mock exams coming up from the 6th of December, as Mr. Davis mentioned, and really the mock exam week is the week where they need to, well, it is their exam week. It's going to be exactly the same as it would be in the summer term. And we may or may not then use that as evidence. After school catch up. So Miss Daisy and myself are running after school clubs where students can come and catch up on their coursework because it's done with a member of staff. If obviously they don't have the facilities at home, so ICT facilities such as Chromebooks or laptops, they can come to us then and they can catch up. Miss Daisy does it and so do I. Homework club is exactly the same. Regular check-ins with myself. I mean, as you know, I've been the head of year now since year 7. I know every single individual extremely well. And I know their strengths and their weaknesses really. So there's no escaping me. I check in with them every single morning and throughout the day, and they know that they can always come to me if they're struggling in anything or if they're behind. I'd like to think that they could come to me, so could you please, if they're not listening now, reiterate that my door is absolutely always open. This is an absolute crucial time for them, and I want them to know that we are all there for them. Regular assessments is another one. So every member of staff, there's a data drop every half term where they input the student's current grade. If they're working at the way they're working now, what are they going to potentially achieve at the end of year 11? I then get to have a look at all that data and I do my data analysis where then I can see what is actually going well, what students need intervention, what students need targeting. I meet with teachers regularly, so do the pupils. So there's lots going on to support your child. There's so many things going on. Ultimately, the main important thing is the child really, and they need to put in the effort as well, and they need to work with us. Thanks, sir. So this meeting is recorded, and I'm more than happy to print these off. They're on the Facebook page as well. I can give your child a copy for you to put on your fridge. But just to give you an overview, this is not specifically tailored for year 11. So this is generally, but more so for me, to look at the after school provision. So you've got Monday's homework club for Key Stage 4, which would be your child. Tuesday, then they have revision going on. As you can see, their product design does that day. Wednesday, then, is maths. Which is a crucial time to go. Now, Mr. Vinicombe is more than happy to have as many students there possible, with the view that they are doing an extra hour of revision and work. Okay, so if, for example, your son or daughter was particularly struggling in math, a Wednesday after school would be a perfect opportunity to have that you know, one-to-one almost with our member of staff to catch up and go over anything on that particular level. You've got then Thursday is geography and French, and then homework club as well. So if those students don't do those particular options, they can then come to myself or Miss Daisy. And then Friday, I mean, I'm sure they would all love to stay on a Friday. I'm sure they would, but if they don't come and stay after school Friday, I still would encourage quite a bit of revision to do at home as well. So that's just a general overview of the lunchtime provisions, after school provisions. Again, I'm more than happy to photocopy them and send them home. If you'd like a copy, that's absolutely fine. So the mock exam week then, the week beginning 6th of December, every single student in year 11 has had a copy of this, okay? It's been sent out to parents as well, but again, if you don't have access to it or you've lost it, please tell your son or daughter, and I'm more than happy to print them off tomorrow for you. So it's quite an intense week for year 11, but realistically, this is what it's going to be like in the summer term. If you sit back and think, really, the last time that this year group was sat in school for an entire year was in year 8. So we have to appreciate, really, that this week, I'm sure, is going to have its challenges. They are going to be treating it, as Sir said, you know, as the real deal. Staff members will be marking it as examiners. And I think it will give them excellent practice of being in the hall as well. So just a few quick updates with regards to the mock exams and how the actual process in the hall, and I will be reiterating this to students next week as well. There are no watches, so no watches, there'll be a clock on the wall. This has been set by the examining board, no mobile phones. As they are to enter the hall, they are to put their bags on the side and then just have their pens, pencils and equipment out on their desk. They will all be given a seat number next week, and that seat number will be exactly the same seat number then for the rest of the week for their exams. So if you could please support with that and ask your child what their seat number is when I give them to them on Monday, just so they've got it in their head, because amongst everything, the last thing they want is to walk into that exam thinking, I don't know where I'm sitting. If any of your children have any access arrangements, they will be based in the LRC, where there will be members of staff in there to support. Ultimately, students know this as well, because I've been reiterating this to them this week. They would need to have started revising, well, end of last week really, in order to be successful in these particular exams. So can you go on to the next slide for me, please? So revision is key, absolutely. Some students came up to me and said, Miss Cranlon, I don't know how to revise, how can you support with that? And I thought that was a really useful and good question. So what I did, along with the help from Mr. Davis and Mr. Stone, I provided a revision pack for them. Mr. Stone gave a video about how to revise, and I went over key techniques. Every child is completely different when it comes to revision. And so I gave them an array of things to do and how to revise. So if you can talk to them about that, please, that would be fantastic. Attendance, as I said, sorry, is absolutely crucial. If they don't show up on their exam day in the summer term, then they're not going to get their qualification. So unless it is linked to COVID next week, and their week of their mock exams, they need to be in. So teachers will use these marks, as Mr. Davis said at the beginning of the presentation, to contribute towards their potentially qualification in the summer term, and then it will go towards their assessment data in January, which I will be analysing. Sorry, sir, I can't really see the screen tidy.
Next slide.
And then sorry, I can see I've got on here now. So then excellent work ethic and attitude is absolutely essential. And I'm sure you all agree with me. Ultimately, we all want what's best for them, and we all want them to achieve their maximum potential next year. I've come a long way with this year group. Obviously, as their head of year, I feel quite passionate, and nothing will make me more prouder than them achieving their results. Can I have the next slide, please, sir? Thank you. So if they say, oh, I don't know where my revision booklet is, or I haven't had one, it's evidence now in the presentation. This was their revision booklet. I'm happy to give some more out, but please encourage to look through them, see how they're doing with their revision. I've also encouraged every child to bring a notepad to school as well, just to make notes in every morning during lessons, almost like a check-in. So again, I've given students who didn't have one notebook, so every single student in year 11 has a notebook and a revision pack. So could you please just check in, you know, at home, or how are you doing? How's that revision going, etc. Thanks, sir. And ultimately, I found this quote, and I think it sums it up really, where it says, success doesn't come from what you do occasionally, but what you do consistently. And that's the message I am pushing with year 11, really. It needs to have a consistent approach. And I've said to them, and I've reiterated to them, as long as they give 100%, that's all myself and parents will ever ask for. And it's down to them now, really. The staff obviously are going over past papers. I'm doing revision technique to them. Miss Dacey's doing homework club. So they do have to start putting the work in. If they do it too late and cram it all in, I mean, as you know, and you all agree with me on that, it will be too late. Thanks, sir. Next one. So I've put some key dates together for you. This presentation, as you know, is recorded, so you can rewatch it back. Obviously, you can make notes on it now if you want to, as I'm going over them. So next Friday, year 11 have a careers day. This is really a fantastic experience for year 11. Lots of different agencies are coming in to work with students to go over their future aspirations. So next Friday will be an absolutely brilliant day for year 11, because as well as their exams, they need to start preparing for the future as well. Especially if they're not staying on in sixth form. You know, myself and Mr. Davis are having conversations with them and supporting them linked to college applications, and just generally giving them advice on where and what they could potentially do when they leave school. The 6th of December then, as I've said, is mock exam week. The 14th of December will be a Christmas afternoon tea, so tutors will be nominating students from tutor groups where they'll be having Christmas afternoon tea. I'm not making it myself, okay, so I will be buying it and bringing it in for them. And then the 16th of December then will be the rewards trip, which will be the last day of the holiday, of the Christmas term, sorry. So I'd like, you know, this is their last Christmas with us for some, especially in year 11. I want to take as many students as I possibly can on the rewards trip. It will be to Cardiff, Christmas shopping. Letters will be going out about that next week. I just want to make it, especially after their exam week, you know, just a nice way to end this particular grueling term, really. The 26th of November then, so this Friday, will be deposit for their prom. All students have had letters, but some of them have actually said to me this week, oh, I haven't given it to my mum or dad this week. So just to give you a heads up, the total cost for the prom is £25. If possible, I would like £15 deposit due in this Friday. If there are any questions or queries, please don't hesitate to contact me. 9th of February is year 11 parents' evening. Again, a crucial evening. Attendance, you know, if you can, please, is key on that particular evening. Year 11 mocks then again the 1st of March. Department information, so I thought this was useful for you all to know some of the deadlines for each particular subject. So you've got Welsh back coursework at the end of February is the deadline for that. You've got geography, which is this Friday, the deadline. ICT is February, business studies is also February. So these are just some of the departments that wanted to reiterate, this will be the absolute deadline for the coursework to be sent off to the examiner. Not that long to go, really. So key dates there for you, and I've got some more on the next slide. Apologies for bombarding you with key dates. GCSE exams, I know it sounds scary because I remember them all when they started in year 7, quite as mice, not so much now. So their GCSEs begin on the 16th of May, and then their exams end on the 20th of June. Okay, and then the 25th of June then is the prom, which is in Ystrad Mynach Dance Studio. There will be a criteria for the prom. Obviously, I have to base it on positive behaviour. So just to reiterate that is also put in the letter that I sent out. But again, ultimately, I want them all there. Okay, so if they'd like to be there, I would like them all there. It's just down to them now. Thanks, sir. Next one. So as Sir mentioned at the beginning, as of now, summer term examinations are going ahead. Every day really does count. I cannot stress that enough to you. And resilient effort and work ethic, okay? They've got 5 months left of school. By the time you take out half terms, it's not that long to go at all. I know that you're all very, very supportive, and I can't thank you enough for joining me this evening. I think together with us and, you know, parents, guardians working with us, the students will hopefully get the qualifications that they deserve in the summer term. Thanks, sir. Next one. So as I said, I just wanted to end on this really. It's been a tough 2 years for them. Again, I will reiterate, the last time they were sat in front of us for the entire year was year 8, and now they're sitting GCSE exams and they're doing extremely, extremely well. If they're the students sat in front of me now or listening to this thinking, oh, I need to put a little bit more effort in, then I hope that this presentation has made you realise that it's not that long left to go. And ultimately, I want them to enjoy prom and celebrate their success. You know, we've come a long way together. I've been ahead of you since year 7. And I really want them all to enjoy prom and have a good time. So as far as from me goes, so can you put on to the next slide for me, please? That's it from me, really. A massive, massive thank you for your support this evening. I'm assuming, because I can see it popping up on my screen, there have been quite a few questions which I can't see, but I'm sure Mrs. Davis have answered them. My email is on there as well, which you all have access to. And if you follow me on Twitter, or if you don't and you'd like to, is at @ncrandon, where I do put regular information about year 11 as well. Please feel free to contact me at any time you'd like. If it's to discuss your child, you know I'd be more than happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss. That's really, really comprehensive, and I'm sure that for the students and for the parents can feel a little bit overwhelming. But over the last 3 years, I just want to reassure you that Centra and everything we've done over the last 3 years with regards to come to Centra return grades or any examinations or assessment tasks that have taken place, we have kept the well-being and the needs of the students at the forefront, you know, so we'll continue to do that and continue to support them every way we can. Mrs. Wright, we're expecting a few challenges in the exam. We're expecting some, the mock week, we're expecting some pupils to find it difficult. But if we were to allow them to go into the summer cold without that kind of real life experience, we wouldn't be doing them any favours that way either. Just a couple of things to add from me. If you want to put some questions in the chat, we've got Mrs. Davis, obviously. I think Mr. Johnson will probably join us by now. He's in another meeting. We've got Mr. Stone, Miss Crandon and myself. We'll try and answer everything we can. Miss mentioned, you know, preparation for these examinations. You know, we're assuming that the summer exams are going to go ahead. So that preparation, that practice is vital. And that was the message that was coming back to myself, Mrs. Crandon, Mr. Stone, was about revision strategies. The children didn't have any, so that's why we provide them that information about revision strategies. They've also got access to something which we emailed out to you earlier in the year called Unifrog. So right at the start of the chat, if you go to the top of the chat, I put in a Loom video, which gives you some information as parents about what Unifrog is about. It's a fantastic piece of kit that the kids have got access to and can learn and can use it at their own time only. Please ask them about it. Please ask them to show it to you. And ask them to take you to the know-how library, because Miss Crandon and I have spent time with them, directed them through the know-how library. That's got further information on how they can revise strategies for revision. Because when it comes to these assessment weeks now, although we want them to do very well, what's important is that they try and work out what works for them and what doesn't. So we've given them 4 or 5 key strategies we believe will support them. One of them being, for example, mind mapping. But unless you've tried mind mapping, you're just not going to know if that's going to work for you in terms of retrieval. You know, it might be the flashcards, or you know, learning from a textbook would be a more effective method for you as a learner. So they need to go through that experience and really practice that ready for December. Hence the reason why Miss was making in the point that they need to be really well prepared and doing some work outside of school as well. So that's there for them. Outside of that, if you've got any questions, then please ask. I can see a question about, you know, how many hours a night should they be revising. They need to be building it up incrementally now. So a lot of it earlier, we were talking to students earlier in the year, Miss Crandon and I, about, you know, kind of muscle memory, so having good routines. So earlier in the year, we were asking the things of what you do it every evening. What's your work time? What's your schedule? So have you got commitments? Have you got clubs that you have to go to? You know, are you sitting down early doors and doing things like organising your work, you know, breaking your work schedule up into manageable chunks? We've given them a kind of revision planner, and we've also given revision planners examples from successful past students that can give them some guidance how to balance out their revision. And Miss Crandon and I have offered any students who want to, you know, show us their revision plan, because the old classic is the young people tend to spend most time working on the things they're already strongest at. You know, so it's a bit like Gareth Bale. He should be doing a bit more practice kicking the ball with his right foot than his left, because he's already a genius with his left. You know, so we want to look at, are they spending enough time in the areas of subject that they don't find, but they should be building up incrementally. And what we do come the summer term is we'll be sharing information with them about what successful students have done in the past. And they'll be picked up from things like the student room, so real live chats from students. And by the summer term, you know, you'll see successful students talking about regularly putting in 2 to 3 hours of revision a night. You know, so that, you know, that's the kind of place they would want to be by come the summer term. So they want to be building it bit by bit as things go along, depending on their schedule, obviously.
They could be taking off the mood all over the fucking place.
Yes, the revision guide has got some information about how to break their evening up. It's broken up into about 45-minute sections, you know, but that's just a kind of a recommendation from a bit of research, really. But you know, they need to take regular breaks when they revise in, and they need to break it up, and they need to rotate their subjects as well, so they get a flavour of moving from subject to subject.
Mr. Davis, I know Mr. Stone is going to talk a little bit about revision as well, so this is a great opportunity, really. There's quite a lot of questions about revision.
Excellent. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, sir. I'm going to need to try and share my screen if you could help me, Mr. Davis, because I haven't got sharing enabled at the moment.
Okay. How's that looking, sir?
Let me try again now. Yeah, that's perfect. Right, there we are. Sir, can you see that screen?
Yes, I can see that, sir.
Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. Listen, it's great of you all to join us late into a Wednesday evening, and it's just a quick bit from me, just to talk about some of the key messages that we've shared with Year 11 students over the last couple of weeks with regards to revision. And Ms. Crandon's quite right earlier on when she said lots of students struggle with revision. They struggle to get started. They struggle to think about how to effectively revise. And actually what happens because of that is they end up doing something that feels busy, but actually is probably a little bit less effective. One of the things that we've shared with them is a particular approach to revision. And that document that Ms. Crandon referenced a moment ago, the revision guide, is a really, really useful tool for them. It's really, really detailed. There's lots of great stuff in there. And it covers some of the points that I thought was appropriate to share with you now, because also parents say to us as well, how do I support with revising? So I'm just going to whiz through some of these things to begin with. And the first thing really is just a bit of clarity. Well, what do we actually mean by revising? When we talk about revising, we're still talking about learning. We're not talking about just kind of skimming off the top of something that we've been working on for a long, long time. Revising is about learning material and learning it in a really, really secure way so that it's available to us when we need it in the event of an exam or a test. And actually what we're talking about with these things are remembering. We're talking about successful learning being our ability to remember things that we've been taught or that we've secured previously. in a way that means we don't have to think too hard about them when it comes to the point that we need to apply them in an exam. So those three concepts there, revising and learning and remembering, are all linked, and that's a message that we've given to the pupils over the last few weeks. I'll just move this along a bit. And I don't want to get too complicated with this, but actually there's a huge amount of educational research around how we learn and how students learn effectively. People far cleverer than myself have worked on this for decades. And there's a complex model around this, but there's a really simple premise in that the more we know, the easier it is to learn new things. So the more that we have in terms of secure knowledge and foundation knowledge, the easier it is for us to build on that. Scientists suggest that we store information and knowledge in what we call schema. These are mental models that are all interconnected. So if you know a little bit about Shakespeare, for example, it's much easier for you to learn more about Shakespeare. If you learn a little bit about photosynthesis and science, it's easier for you to learn more and secure that information. We've shared this model with the students as well. And it comes with a couple of really key statements for us. That if we think about learning and therefore revising as remembering, then actually what's important here is our ability to remember things. Now, we can only ever remember what we think about, what we think hard about. And that's the link there, is revision can only be successful if we're thinking hard about the right things, the things that we need to know and the things that we need to remember. Too often what happens with revision is that students work on things that feel easier or feel busy. So they'll read through notes, they'll read over kind of documents that they've been given, they'll highlight things, they'll color things in. And this feels busy and it feels productive, but oftentimes they're not really thinking hard about the things they need to know in order to give them a shot at remembering it when they need to apply it in the exam. So it's really important that they understand the difference between that. And Ms. Crandon and I have been doing a bit of work on an approach to revision over the last couple of weeks called the FACE-IT model. And this is built around that idea that it's really difficult for students sometimes to deal with that overwhelming sense that I've got 8 exams coming and they're coming quickly and I've got lots of different topics and lots of different subjects to prepare for. So they don't know where to begin. So the FACE-IT model is something we put in place to support them. And Ms. Crandon has shared this with students and it's built into that booklet that you've got, that the students have been given. And it's based on a system of best bets. Now, Miss quite rightly said earlier, not every student learns or revises in the same way. So it's important that actually all we can do without making any guarantees is present them with the best opportunities of successfully revising that material. And this FACE-IT model is based on those best bets, a system of best bets from the research. And it talks about learning the facts, applying those facts in context, connecting ideas between different topics, and then really importantly, testing that in exam conditions. I'm going to whiz through these really quickly, but all of this information has been shared with the students. Now, about learning facts, oftentimes we think the learning facts is quite shallow, that it actually isn't enough, but we need those facts. We need those in order to think with. We need to know foundational knowledge. We need to know terminology. We need to know dates. We need to know key quotations. We need that factual, declarative knowledge in order to think about those more complex issues that we might encounter in the exams. So when we learn those facts, what we do is we broaden those mental models. So actually, if your son or daughter are struggling to get started with revision, that kind of knowledge organizer approach, that idea of starting with, well, what are the really important terms, what are the really important pieces of information that we need to know before we go on to start applying those in the exam. So starting with facts is a really useful point. And you can support by kind of testing them on keywords and terminology and dates and things like that. I'm not going to go into detail about the strategies because I know that Ms. Crandon has covered those with the pupils and they get lots of opportunities to do those in their revision time in school. And also there's lots of information on those strategies that are in the booklet that Ms. has provided as well. Now, learning facts is great. Learning facts is a brilliant start, but on its own, facts don't really cut the mustard. What we need to do with those is apply them. We need to actually do something with that information so that we can test it out, so that we can organize it, so we can find where it fits. And this is where students getting their head into past papers and looking for exam questions from past papers, looking at textbooks and finding questions from textbooks can be a really useful source of information. The other thing that's really, really important here is that they get feedback on these things. Too often what happens is students work really busily in their own time revising. They produce reams and reams of revision notes and materials, they answer past paper questions, but they never actually bring those in and get the feedback from the teachers, the experts, who are able to tell them whether they're on the right lines or give them next steps or support them with any misconceptions. So actually, it's not just enough to be busy in your bedroom working on your revision. Making sure that there's a loop there, that revision goes back to the teacher, goes back to the experts, and feedback is given, as it would in a classroom, is really, really important. If we spend hours and hours and hours revising the wrong things, or we've got the wrong idea about something, all we're doing is embedding those misconceptions, and they're going to be the first thing that we go to when it comes to the exam. And then really thinking about, well, how can we broaden this? How can we make connections between things that we don't necessarily make explicit in lessons? There are lots and lots of ways that we can look for patterns and links and trends in the information that we're looking at. So if we're studying topics, for example, within a broader subject area, so in science, students might be looking at a range of different topics. Actually, a really effective way to revise is to look for connections, to look for key principles or scientific principles that overlap or interconnect between those particular topics. Is a really powerful way of securing that knowledge. Okay, remember, these exams are not memory tests, and I think that's often the misconception, is that we think that we just need to know it to pass the exam. Actually, what's really important here is that the knowledge is really secure and the students are able to think about how they connect and how they apply within different contexts. And to mention kind of mind maps and concept maps, a great way of mapping out information and kind of synthesizing and summarizing information. So we should be seeing pupils producing really well sequenced and well organized concept maps, not just mind maps, not just spider diagrams with kind of random information on there, but sequenced and organized and categorized concept maps, word diagrams. Using compare and contrast activities are really useful as well. Those are the types of things that they should be producing as an outcome of their revision. And this is really important, and this is where parents have a really important role to play as well. Okay, in the same way that you would expect to train for a football match or a sporting event of any kind, you only ever know how good you are when you do it under pressure. Revision can often feel very, very comfortable. You know, you've got a cup of tea by your hand, you've got your phone and your telly's on in the background, and you're having a chat with your friends as you're doing it. Well, actually, that's great in terms of a way in, but you never know whether you've secured that knowledge well enough to use it under pressure unless you simulate those exam conditions. So students should be encouraged to be working and revising in a quiet area at home. There should be time limits. Now, Stern mentioned kind of 45-minute chunks. Actually, lots of the evidence suggests some are closer to 30-minute chunks with a quick break is really, really important. That's probably all we can handle when it comes to kind of bringing information and new information into our long-term memory. So 30-minute chunks, but setting those time limits so there is a focused amount of work, and parents helping to support that is a really useful addition. Making sure that pupils are working without notes or prompts when they are testing the knowledge. Okay, obviously not when they're revising and going through their activities, but when there comes a point where they're testing themselves in exam conditions, making sure that they're not taking shortcuts and using notes and prompts. And this is where they really need your help, is they need to see it through. Okay, revision is hard and people switch off from revision when it gets too tough. This is a natural human response, isn't it? We need to revise harder on the things that we're not sure about, but those are the toughest things to revise. So what happens is sometimes we give up on revising those things, the things we need most, because we don't necessarily have the natural resilience to see it through. What we need from parents when the students are revising is to give them that kind of motivation, that moral support, you know, support them to see it through so that they can get through to the exams and they're really, really well prepared. And also ensure that follow-up as well, making sure that once they spend that time working or testing what they know in a particular topic, that you're prompting them to take that to the teacher, asking them questions. Well, what did your teacher say about that? What feedback did you get on that? You know, asking them or supporting them whether they have even made contact with the teacher in the first place to send that through. Remember, those sessions of revision are only as good as the accuracy of them. So they need that feedback from their teachers to make sure that they can really succeed. Now, again, in the booklet that Miss has shared with you, we've summarized each of those strategies. Now, these things, these 6 strategies at the bottom, retrieval practice, questioning, using concrete examples, feedback, space practice, and interleaving, they sound like a bit of jargon surrounding education, but actually they're all explained very clearly in the booklet that Miss Crandon has provided. These are the things that they will get from us in school, but these are also the strategies that they could be using to support their revision at home as well. Lots and lots of information there. I just thought it was important to keep parents up to speed with the approach that we're taking to revision in school. If there are any questions on that, speak to your children. They've had a far more in-depth introduction to these strategies, or get in contact with myself, Mr. Davis, or Miss Crandon. We'll be happy to give you some further guidance and support. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Miss. I'll hand back over to you now.
I think, Miss, that we've pretty much addressed everything that's in the chat so far. I don't know if you've got anything else to add, or Mrs. Davis would like to come in with anything else.
And that's it for me. So I just want to say massive thank you all for your support and attending this afternoon. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, and similar message from me. Thank you, sir. Just thanks to all the parents for attending, and stay in touch. If you've got any questions, we're here to help. And we really do want to support the children to do the very best they can in the next few weeks in these mocks, and then eventually in the summer. Thanks everybody.
Similarly for me, I think that's a really important message in terms of keeping in touch. I say we'd expect the children to find this quite challenging, because going into examinations is challenging. They haven't had the practice and experience that past cohorts will have. So if you're spotting any signs of stress or anything that we can deal with, you know, you've got loads and loads of coping mechanisms that you can support your children with, but staff have as well in school. So it's really important you let us know if you start to see, you know, young people displaying any signs of stress. As Sir said, they need to be stressed a little bit. They need to have this experience and develop that resilience so they can go into in the summer well prepared. But if you think that things are getting too much for them, if you can keep in touch with us in school, particularly through Miss Crandon, then we can provide support. Are there any more general questions in the chat?
No, nothing more there, Grant.
No.
Thanks to all the parents. Super thanks, and you know, we're really grateful for your support.
We'll make this available via YouTube now, Miss, and I will email it out to all of the parents, so they'll have a copy so they can refer to it back at home, and share with any, you know, family members or neighbours who perhaps weren't able to attend tonight.
Thanks. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening.